Hi, I'm Emilia Nieminen, the maker of Inamorata dolls. Today I'm going to show you how to pose Inamorata or other dolls for your displays or photo shoots so you can get some variety on the good old hand-on-hip standing pose. My main motivation for designing my own doll was to create a doll that looks natural naked. I wanted human articulation without the mechanism of the joints, ruining the lines of the body. The third generation Inamorata doll has 3 tension lines. First, the 2mm thick high tension elastic cord connecting the arms. Second, a 3mm elastic connecting the head to the torso, crossing the arms inside the collarbone joint. I wanted to keep the line of the legs separate as each benefits from having their own level of tension. And 3, the same type connecting the legs. While talking, ranting, I'll show you some of the joints we'll get to later in more detail. One of the focal points of Inamorata design for me is the hip joint. The most common hip joint type, the hip ball with a visible slit on the front, is a particular pet peeve of mine. So I had to figure out a completely different mechanic for the hip joints and many other things to get the aesthetic I wanted, like this hidden thigh joint. I also wanted the functionality of double elbow joints without the odd look the arms get from them while being straight. So I made elbow joints that pop inside the arms when not in use. I did hear that many people haven't discovered this little hidden function, so let's get started with how they work first. So this single joint elbow gives a nice natural line for the straight arm and only has one smooth seam when seen from behind. And when you bend the elbow without using the hidden double joint, you'll only get 90 degrees angle. In order to engage that extension bit, you need to pull the forearm and then this hidden part pops out. Make sure that the hidden joint is right way around so that the slits are on the inside of the elbow. Now you can bend the elbow all the way, folding the arm completely in half so the doll can touch their shoulders, neck and face. Let's do that again for clarity. So pull the forearm out to stretch out the hidden elbow and then post the arm. I find it sometimes useful to post the hand under the chin to lock the pose, especially if I'll post the other arm, as the interconnected elastic might tuck on the arm and make it move on its own. Dolls moving on their own sounds like something out of a horror movie. But I really love sort of puppeteering these dolls, not just posing, but moving them live. I think I want to make a video about that, or maybe it's just a close-up music video without me having the voiceover. Okay, but here's a general troubleshooting tip for posing all ball-jointed dolls, not just Inamorata. If you have a joint that doesn't hold a pose, check if the elastic inside might be twisted. I rolled the cord inside the doll's left arm on purpose here to show the difference in posing. So this twisting is very normal occurrence when you play with your dolls, dress them up or do photo shoots. So first you want to stretch open the joint to check out the strings. Then rotate the parts until the threads of the elastic cord inside are straight and give it a few extra stretchy pulls to make sure that the part of the elastic you don't see is not knotted anymore. And then finally ease the arm back in, or whatever the part is. This usually fixes the problem and then it poses normally. The same trick applies for other joints like shoulders, knees, ankles and neck. Next, let's look at the way the third generation Inamorata shoulders work. I was definitely inspired by Bauchamp dolls and their amazing shoulders, but I didn't want to copy the mechanism, so this is what I came up with. This new design allows changes in posture by rolling the shoulders back and forth. They also have a small range of motion up and down that I'll show here. So to lift the shoulder, you just push the arm upwards. like along the body. To lower it back down in neutral position, you want to raise the arm on the side and then lower it, and the shoulder ball joint will move down with it. This way you can change the line of the shoulders and allow poses like the couture hunch. With the new mobility, Inamorata can cross her arms over her chest or to touch the elbows together behind her back. The new shoulder joints allow a lot of movement but can sometimes dislocate at extremities. But don't worry, it's an easy fix. Stretch the arm out to allow the shoulder ball joint to realign while tilting the ball joint upward to allow the guiding tab to slip back into its groove. See, good as new. As a trade-off for the newfound mobility, I think the rare annoyance over the shoulder joint is fine. However, I am figuring out how to try and improve this for the 4th generation. That batch of dolls was supposed to cast earlier this year, but because of the pandemic, everything is still kind of stuck in limbo. Hopefully it can be done later this year, but I'm kind of expecting that it will take until next year at least. The next batch of Inamorata dolls actually has 3 new head sculpts I'm really excited about, especially the mature one. So for longest time I wanted to sculpt a doll that actually has wrinkles. I've done one of a kinds that have hand sculpted wrinkles, but actually to have a cast doll to have that, I've no idea if that will be popular or not, but at least I want it for my own. Actually, let me know in the comments if you're interested in the concept. I'm really curious to hear your reactions. Do you want a doll with wrinkles? I actually find wrinkles beautiful. I mean, I just turned 40, so I better. But I think it's one of those things that shows our personality and draws it on our face. So it's really interesting, but I should get back to the video. I digress. Okay, so the 3rd generation Inamorata neck has 3 joints. We have one above the collarbones. The second one is in the middle of the neck that can be easily hidden with a choker necklace if it bugs you. And the third one is the traditional one that is connecting straight to the head. In the 2nd generation, this was the only neck joint. The new middle neck joint allows side tilts of the head that are really great for micro posing, close-up shots and such, which is something we'll look at more in the next section. Before that, I want to show you how the joint at the collarbones make it possible for Inamorata to look up and down. Make sure to align the neck though, I messed up so many photos by that. These poses can be a bit finicky because the arm tension and the shoulder alignment are all interconnected within the mechanics of this one neck joint. So keep exploring patiently. Having the shoulders in a neutral position definitely helps, as the lifted shoulders pose does affect the movement of the collarbone joint. So I know 3 neck joints is a lot of visible mechanics, but in exchange for that we gain so much emotional expression. I love photos where the doll is just caressing her face, voguing. Tilt of the head or placement of the hands can communicate mood and expression better than any other body part. Dolls cannot change their facial expressions, although open mouths can be sculpted, kind of like kabuki masks, so that the mouth changes its shape with the tilt of the head, hiding or revealing the teeth. The Nzia sculpt here has closed mouth, but people sometimes ask me, do I have closed mouth versions of dolls that actually do have visible teeth? And I think it's purely the camera angle that is creating the illusion of a closed mouth. But now we know how to use the elbows, shoulders and neck, so I think we can have a bit of fun voguing as a reward for our hard work. Alright, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Oh, I wish YouTube's audio library had Madonna's Vogue. Oh well, have to make do. Strike a pose. Strike a pose. I'm posing while I'm recording this audio. But now that we are done with the portrait photography, next we can get into the full-fledged full-body photo shoots. Third generation Inamorata has 2 torso joints, underbust and ribs, both with 4 little tabs for locking down poses. You can see that the front tab just continues the line of the torso between the breasts and keep the pose stable. These joints allow a strong back bend, hunch poses and side stretches. Living in Japan and having constant earthquakes, I nowadays pose my dolls mostly sitting or lying down for display, as stands would not be safe. For this pose, lying down on her tummy, I used 1 front torso tab to stabilize the pose. When posing, it's better to stretch out the elastic and then lock the joint in position this way, rather than just bending, kind of grinding the doll in position, as this reduces the wear on the body blushing. Let's try a side pose next. I stretch the joints open again and place them in position. I lock both underbust and rib joints on one side to create almost the 90-degree angle side bend. This is one of my favorite poses. I really love languid poses and showing Inamorata's sensuous curves with this type of side pose. When opening the torso locks, I stretch the elastic and place them back in neutral position. This is again to protect the body blushing from the grinding motion. Now I'll show you a hunch forward. Sorry for the bit of a blur. I lock both torso joints in place with the tabs and bring the legs into a sitting pose. Being able to sit in seiza, the way Japanese sit in tea ceremony, was one of my goals when making my own doll. For this, double knee joints were obviously necessary, and I also made legs a tiny bit shorter for the 3rd generation to make the proportions more natural and have the feet end up right under the buttocks like they should in this position. I usually align the doll's posture into a sitting position by locking at least one of the torso joint back tabs. This is to compensate for the arch I sculpted in the lower back. I just love the aesthetic of an arch in the small of the back. You can adjust the knee alignments from the hidden thigh joint, but we will get into that in more detail later. I don't really plan these poses in advance. I think it's good to try different hand poses and everything to complement the posture. Combined with the neck joints, the Inamorata becomes very shy this way. Or sad. This one-of-a-kind doll is named after the Japanese art of Kinzuki, where broken pottery is pieced together again with golden seams. This is a commissioned doll, and the concept was brought to me by my friend. And this pair of dolls has been in the making for several years. The idea is that she's going to keep this albino one, and I will keep the dark one, and that'll bind us together. With the Kinzuki as a doll, I wanted to convey the idea that trauma doesn't break us. We are not broken. It is just something that carves depth to our souls. Before we get to the hip joints, I want to quickly show you the double jointed knees. If I only want to use a 90-degree angle, like here for sitting, I usually only bend them from the top joint. This makes more beautiful proportions for photography, as the lower leg is elongated. However, sitting on a low sofa, you might want to adjust the length of the doll's lower leg, and this double joint gives you a centimeter or half an inch of leeway. Okay, let's take a look at the thigh joint. I hit the thigh mobility joint that allows the doll to rotate the leg, lean forward, or to cross their legs while sitting. To find it, you just stretch the thigh joint open, and there you will find the usual slit ball joint just hiding out of sight. So now we're getting into advanced posing territory with some free balancing poses. So notice that the doll cannot maintain her balance with this straight packed pose, because the point of gravity is here, indicated where the white line is, and she's leaning back too much, indicated by the red line. So if I'll correct her posture to shift the weight forward, she can balance in this pose on her own. Also note that using the thigh joint in this way might cause a scuff on top of the thigh joint and also damage the body blushing, so just a heads up. Free balancing poses are super finicky business that takes a lot of patience, so just don't give up. I can make another video about this in more detail later. I'll show you the pose from different angles so you can see the leg placement more clearly. Okay, let's shift to our next position. So here, with a small change of crossing of the legs over the other, we can get an elegant sitting pose for chair, sofa, other furniture you might have for display. Since we're getting close to the end of the video, let's relax into a nice yoga pose. I will pop open the other hidden thigh joint on the left side and rotate the hip joints outwards. Instead of the usual slits, the inside of the Inamorata hip joints are these weird triangular shaped holes, so the rotation of the hip actually changes the way the legs can move and open up. This allows the doll to, for example, sit cross-legged. Should definitely have better posture for yoga. So, hands, palms up on the knees. Check that posture, think long spine and neck. Now we are in a nice easy pose. And imagine there's a string inside you, stretching you taller. Oh, there really is a string inside you. Right, sorry doll, bad metaphor. Okay, I'll show you the pose from different angles again so you can see it more clearly. Okay, one last stretch before we finish for today. I want to show you how those hip joints affect the leg posing. So, in neutral position, when the knees are in the front, the legs open about this much. Not quite full splits, and point slightly down, like sitting in a saddle. Rotating the hip joints outwards allows the legs to open more and adds more stability to sitting poses on flat surfaces, like stretching on the floor. Now the knees are pointing weirdly backwards though, so let's use the hidden thigh joints to rotate them back on top to make the poses a bit more natural. Next, I'll add a side bend to the torso using those lockable tabs. And then I'll reach the arms out for good stretch. Oh, that feels nice. My little yogi. Now, if we rotate this pose standing up, we almost have a dance pose already. Sorry for the blur. If we could only rotate the hip ball just a bit more. Oh, we can. There you go. The third generation of Inamorata were inspired by athletes such as modern dancers and ballerinas like Misty Copeland. So this feels like a fitting end to today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I have many more videos in the making, but editing is taking forever as we are learning stuff as we go along. If you have any requests for the topic I should do next, let me know in the comments below. Thank you.